Jana McDonald. I am a career advisor with the Experiential Learning Hub, and I'm very excited today. We have with us Joshua Wallace, and he's a former U of G student who is now working as a junior policy analyst for the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. So thanks, Joshua, for joining us today.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And I'm also going to let our two students that are with us introduce themselves. And we're going to be having a nice career chat with Joshua to find a little bit more about his background and how he entered the ministry. But before we do that, Lucas and Ebi, if you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm a fifth-year criminal justice and public policy student at the University of Guelph. Looking forward, hopefully, to a career in policy analysis or some sort of career like that.
Nice.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ebi. I'm a third-year criminal justice and public policy student with a minor in sociology. Quite similarly, I'm really interested in policy, social justice, law and politics. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Awesome.
Awesome. And Joshua, we'll kind of get the conversation going with you. What have you been up to since you graduated from the University of Guelph?
Yeah, hi, Jana. So, since graduation, I completed my master's degree actually at Ryerson University in their public policy and administration program. And I've started working with the Ministry of Children, Community, Social Services with their strategic policy division as a policy analyst shortly thereafter. And I've recently been hired on to continue working there as an analyst for the next year or so. So really looking forward to that. But it's been an interesting road here. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about. So yeah, whatever you guys want to ask me, please go ahead. I'm excited to answer your questions.
All right, Lucas, if you want to jump in.
All right. So first question, why did you choose to study and ultimately get work in the policy field?
Yeah, it's actually a great question, Lucas. So my journey towards the policy field all started with the University of Guelph and their criminal justice and public policy program. I actually double majored and did a degree in political science. So my decision to attend Guelph was based on the fact that they had the most comprehensive criminal justice program in the country that I determined. And honestly, it did not disappoint. So my degree in criminal justice public policy emphasized things like the relationship between law and politics, several barriers to policy development. And I was also privileged to study things like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in depth. And I was given the opportunity to write major research papers on legislation development, policy framing, and the criminal justice system. So overall, it sparked my interest even further. And my unique experience growing up as a Black Canadian as well, and my understanding of the systemic barriers that people of color face in our society inspired me to ultimately get involved in the policy field and create the change I wanted to see in the world. Is kind of the cliche way of saying it, but that's why I really got involved in policy.
That's awesome, Josh. Thanks.
So when you were applying to further education programs in fourth year, what programs were you looking into, and what made you ultimately choose Ryerson's Master of Public Administration program?
Yeah, so I actually remember my fourth year at the University of Guelph vividly. I'll say that I had a great experience there, but yeah, a lot of thinking, a lot of questions asking where you want to go next, what you want to do next. So in that fourth year, I only considered two different paths, which was law and policy. So I applied to law schools in Ontario, and I also applied to policy programs in Ontario. After much consideration, I decided that I'd want to begin my career by entering the policy field and building professional skills and competencies that would eventually allow me to be even a better lawyer in the future. So I decided to attend Ryerson's program for a number of reasons. The first is that, it has such a rich history in the policy field. I learned quickly that, the program has over 15 years in the field, and some of the brightest, most creative and determined individuals that you could ask for to learn from. And also their alumni were incredible. I also looked at the program's amazing and well-established faculty. That was just a major selling point to me. I mean, one quick Google search and you'll see, Ryerson's administration professors, and I'll tell you all you need to know about, the program's commitment to providing students with a rich education and real-life policy skills. In the field. So I realized quickly that they were willing to provide you with the skills you need to, gain employment right after the year that you spent with them, but also be successful as well. Um, and to name a few professors, I did point out when I saw these questions that I wanted to speak to this. Pam Palmer, Janet Lum, Patrice Tatil, and Professor Galabuzzi. And you'll quickly learn that all these professors have real life experience in policy development and in advocating for change. So when I saw these professors' names and I saw what they had known, I decided that this was a program that I had to be in. And also, it has an enhanced, say, co-op program for public for students afterwards. So they have a public servant in residence that then supports you along your journey to finding an employment. And also, if you want to go further in education, the program was prepared to help you do that as well. So those are kind of some of the reasons as to why I did that. But if you guys want to know the honest truth, the biggest thing, determining factors why I chose Ryerson over any other public policy program was that it was a 1 year program. And I figured that I'd be able to do it in a year, start working, gain a lot of these public policy skills, and then go to law school afterwards. So far it's working out.
Yeah, and I'm just going to interject in there. Lucas, did you want to share a recent development in your life related to what Joshua was
Yeah,
talking about?
I've actually just recently been accepted to that same program, so I'm very excited to be involved with it, especially the co-op aspect. It seems really amazing. I didn't really know much about the faculty, but I'm definitely now interested in their pathways as well.
Oh, that's incredible, Lucas. Congratulations, man.
Thank you
Honestly,
very
I'll give you my
much.
number after this. Please feel free to reach out. And if you do decide to choose Ryerson, which I will wink, wink, encourage you to do, uh, I will definitely have supportive alumni and people in the policy field that will support you along your way. So yeah, congrats again. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, Lucas, once more. Back to the questions. What was the application process like? When did you apply? What did the application materials consist of? When were you notified of acceptance? And any advice for students applying to master's programs?
That's a packed
Yeah, it's
question.
a really packed.
Uh, so I'll try to answer all different pieces. So when you apply, you'll need a statement of interest. You'll need an updated professional resume, as Lucas probably knows, two
Yeah.
letters of recommendation, and you need to provide faculty with your transcripts, of course. So the deadline to apply is, generally speaking, I think it's early January.
I think it
And
was
I was
December 14th this year, but
December 14th. Oh, incredible. Okay,
yeah.
so I think December 14th is for early consideration, right? Or first
Yeah.
consideration. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So December, and I was notified of, I think, my acceptance late February or early March. So just around the time of Lucas here. So I know it's a huge weight off your shoulders at this point, thinking about what you might do for next year. But if I had any piece of advice for students applying to our master's program, or master's programs in general, graduate programs, I would say first to build genuine relationships with your professors. Spend a considerable amount of time trying to get to know them, um, and also just seeing what their interests are and what their practices are and how you can learn from them and be a better student first and foremost, and then also be a better professional. I'd also say spend a considerable amount of time on your personal statements. Like, guys, I can't stress how important it is to ensure that you are clear about what makes you unique as an applicant, um, what traits are favorable for the program, how you would not only be a good professional, but then how you would impact that program when you get there and what you plan on doing upon arrival. Um, so yeah, are clearly articulating why you want to be in that group, what makes you unique, and will really allow admissions to kind of take a second look at your application. Because after a while, I think that, especially with a great GPA, you start to look a lot like everyone else. So that gives you another chance to stand out. And what you really want to do on these applications is stand out a little bit more.
That's awesome. awesome. Thank you. And I'll add a segue here that at Career Services, we do review those personal statements. So anyone that's looking to get those done, that is a piece of advice I'm always giving. So I'm glad you reinforced that, Joshua, on trying to be unique.
Yeah. No, I did receive some assistance from the career development office as well, my third and fourth year, and I can say that I think the Guelph has probably one of the best career development offices, and also the supports that you could ask for in universities in Ontario.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, on to the next one. Reflecting on your time at the university, are there any experiences that you had, for example, on-campus volunteering or clubs, any jobs that you think that helped you be successful with your job application?
Honestly, when I speak about the University of Guelph, I speak so highly, and also when I speak about the city of Guelph, I speak highly as well. The experiences I gained there, the support I received from the people there, I honestly couldn't have been looking forward to a better university experience. Um, I'll start with actually my time with the basketball team. So I was the manager of the men's basketball team for around 3 years. It started off with my older brother actually being the captain of the basketball team my first year. So I always hung out with the team. I went to practices. I couldn't get away from them games. And the coach presented me with an opportunity to begin working for him as the manager of the team, which was also through the awards and scholarships program that the school offers as well. So I started working with him. His name's head coach Chris O'Rourke, and we got to know each other very well. I mean, I learned so much from him. Staying with him for the 3 years, I learned a lot about resilience, determination, and teamwork. And Coach Chris is still one of my main references today. And I also reference a lot of the experiences I had with the basketball team and being part of campus. So I really appreciate everything that he's done for me, and I hope that you see this, Coach Chris. Um, as well, I'll talk a little bit about my time with off-campus living. So I was a part of the peer helper program for also around 3 years while I was at Guelph too. So I got involved a lot come second year. Um, and as part of the off-campus living team, we did things like review lease agreements, advise students on their rights and responsibilities as tenants, and then things like conducting conflict resolutions and just working with people to kind of create a better living space on campus and off campus, and also creating and connecting them to resources. So I participated in many off-campus events. You'll see sometimes at St. Patty's Day or Frost Week, you'll have your off-campus live and peer helpers coming around to some of the events there, parties, etc., and handing out things to work with you guys on how to be safe while in Guelph. And Catherine Hofer was another amazing person that was supportive, and a great reason as to why I've pursued a career in public policy and law as well. So job applications, they look for things like sustained community engagement and experiences working part of a team. So these have helped me tremendously, and I frequently I'm asked about these experiences when I go into interviews as well. So like a lot of them ask me like, hey, what was your time like working with a basketball team for 3 years? How did you work through solutions to connect people to resources as an off-campus living peer helper? So I guess my advice is to get involved on campus. It will not only better your university experience, but it tremendously pays off in the end. So yeah, those are the two jobs that I would talk about that help me on campus.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add in there, like I do like how you have a basketball example, because I think for a lot of policy students, they might be thinking about other campus clubs that are directly connected. But sometimes I kind of call it these wild card experiences, to go back to what we were talking about earlier about being unique. As you mentioned, sometimes in an interview you get questioned on the basketball, and that's because it is something different than maybe what they've been interviewing all day for that policy analyst role, right? There's something new coming in, and so they gravitate towards that. So sometimes having a wildcard experience is equally as beneficial as a directly related experience. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'll say it's interesting because I was part of the Law Society and the Criminal Justice Public Policy Society as well while I was there, and I did moots and all these things, and I thought that was probably the most impressive, and that's what they'd ask me about. And then I've walked into interviews on Bay Street last year where they sat down and like, hey man, so did you ever play basketball? What was it like? And I'm just like, that kind of question will floor you when you're looking for them to ask you about your experiences mooting and public speaking. So I'm glad that I actually had that experience, and that then I get a call from coach saying, out of all the references that I provided, he's the one person they called to figure out what I'm like. So you definitely want to at least have one experience throughout university that points to kind of just your character, something that you're interested in. I love basketball, and that's carried me a long way.
Awesome.
That's really awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I guess on to the next one then. So was finding a job in the government that you were interested in easier or harder than you had anticipated? So what is the job market like in the policy sector? Were there a lot of opportunities for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting right now. So the job market in the policy sector is definitely interesting is the word. I would say that in my experience, it was around just as difficult as I had anticipated. Um, Maybe a little bit harder. But given the preparation and support that I received from Ryerson, however, I think that it was a very pleasant experience looking for a job in the policy field. And I realized that quickly that I was prepared, but I also had a lot of the skills that they were looking for, some that I developed throughout undergrad, but also many that I had gained in the policy program. Um, I think that for myself, I know working for the Ontario Public Service firsthand, that it's difficult to secure a position from outside the organization, considering that we currently have a hiring freeze. Um, as well, it's difficult actually once you're in and let's say you're on contract to then secure a permanent position. It's a lot of competitions, and I guess a lot of it's based on the experience that you're able to gain while you're working, but also the ones that you bring to the organization on a whole. Um, and I'll say though that there's so many different opportunities though to work in policy and to get you started. I know friends of mine that have started to work for school boards on their policy teams, or for opportunities in various municipalities. And you'd be surprised to know how many times we interact with municipalities with the province to build different projects and programs and services that people can then benefit from on a whole. So
Yeah.
I think that the skill set you gain is also transferable to things like consulting as well. So I guess there's no real limitation in terms of what you can do once you actually have experience in the policy field. And I'd recommend it, but also know that there are many experiences as well as startup companies as well that have reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to work with us on some of the projects we have going in your city and in and around your area? So definitely the opportunities are endless.
So follow-up question for that. Would you say that the co-op was instrumental in finding a position?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I, in fact, the co-op is the reason as to why I'm still working for the government now. Fun fact, I have never worked one day in office with the government since I started. The only time I've ever been to an office was to do my interview, the panel interviews. I did multiple, and then finally to go pick up my government ID and go back home with my laptop and computer and those things. So I think that it was instrumental. I was able to secure another contract after my time with them, so that helped me as well. And also, I was kind of being sneaky about it, not sneaky, but thinking ahead. And I looked at vacancies in certain branches before I actually accepted any of my offers, that I knew there's a chance or opportunity for me to, get a contract and stay with them a little bit longer.
That's amazing. Okay, so what was the application process like applying to your current role, and like any application materials that were specific or interview tips that you have, and why do you feel like you were successful?
So yeah, you'll learn a lot more about this in a little bit, Lucas, I'm sure. The application for a lot of this, it comes up really quickly actually. So you start applying in around early January. I think it's due the first or second week of January. I'll talk a bit about my experience. So I applied through the master's co-op program, and it's a student co-op program where they take students on at the ministry each year. And also there are other locations you could have done. I just chose the OPS, but you could have done your master's co-op with pretty much relatively any organization out there that engages some of the skills that you learned in the policy program. So through the master's co-op program, which I can speak to, I know that you apply to 6 different streams, or you can apply to just one, or use one application and apply to all 6. But I know that a couple of them are health, infrastructure, social services, central agencies, and a few others that you can apply to. And what happens is you go through one central portal, and if you want to apply to all 6 or to apply different ones, you can choose how many you want to. And once you've gone through that process, I know that you will get different emails and responses from ministries that pick you up from the different 6 streams. And generally speaking, they'll give you an interview, and they'll start by calling you. I think it is. They'll call you, let you know that you've received an interview. They'll then give you an assignment to go with the interview. So you will do a panel interview, but also then a presentation afterwards, or a presentation first, and then they'll ask you questions, generally speaking, afterwards. I know that it's generally, I think, around anywhere between 3 to 4 people that interview at the same time. So it can be a bit intimidating at first. And the next interesting part is when you're applying to multiple streams, you're going to get calls from multiple ministries at the same time in different teams, sometimes multiple teams in the same ministry. So I think a lot of my experience was just tailoring my application to the different streams that I was most interested in. And then once getting these the interviews and also presentations and assignments that they had to do prior to the interview, generally speaking, like let's say you get a call on Monday, you might be doing the first interview on the Thursday. So during the process, you have to find time to put that presentation together. And again, you get support from not only just your peers, but also faculty as well that help you kind of do that and support you in that process. But that's kind of been my experience there. And then from there, I secured another contract for the year.
Oh, that does sound quite intimidating, the 3 to 4 panel members. Do the assignments pertain directly to the job position you're applying to, or just policy in general?
That's a really good question. Is that a follow-up question? I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I just kind of threw it in.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. So there's actually there's different processes. So some some agencies or ministries will choose like a general 1 to 2 between 2 different presentations that you do, or assignments that they give you. And you will have a considerable amount of flexibility in how you approach the assignments as well. But generally speaking, you're putting together a deck or a PowerPoint presentation with data and information. You present on that. Others will be really specific towards the role that you actually play. So I think that each year they come out with, they develop these 2 or 3 assignments that they give to everyone to apply to to all managers, rather, to give to students that apply. But then there's other managers that go their own route and give you more specifics to the role that you'll play, and just to really tease out how well you'll actually do on the ground.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that was a great follow-up question. So what are some examples of entry-level positions with your organization students might be able to target upon graduation?
Yeah, so I guess it's based on the levels, either level 3 or level 4. Both of them will be like their entry-level policy positions. Generally speaking, either be a policy analyst or a policy advisor position. And that's generally just working on a team or in a branch, in a unit, and supporting through like general things like research, development, or developing more like different frameworks, or supporting a lead analyst on a different project. But a lot of those roles are kind of interchangeable, and I think that those are the ones you would want to target. There's also the research analyst positions as well that you can target, that are really based on kind of using a lot of the skills you gain in university, at Guelph, in your master's program, wherever you decide to go, but being able to really support the ministry's work through your research, and also being able to kind of provide new and different insights to the work that they do there. So I think that the entry level positions, either generally speaking, they'll be level 3 or level 4 that you can go for, or just a general policy position or internship. That would be amazing as well.
Thank you.
I feel like we've kind of answered 8. Do we have anything that we should expand on this question? It pertains to experiences that assisted you in acquiring a job in the government. Is there any like useful skill or credential in particular that you can point out that was instrumental?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll point out two. I did kind of answer this question earlier, I realize now, but I will point out two of them for you. I think the first one was my experience collaborating in a team. I at Rogers University, I competed in nationals with I think it was actually in Quebec City for the national public policy competition, and that was in a team of around four of us. Very competitive competition where we went up against teams across Canada in public policy programs, and we looked at creative solutions to public policy issues that we were experiencing at the time. So I think we looked at the housing crisis and how to provide different housing strategies for Ontarians and abroad as well. And I think that experience working in a team and going through the policy process over and over again, and kind of solidifying skills like public speaking or creative thinking, and your presentation skills. Those things really helped in terms of being able for them to say, I look at this student and I think that this person is someone that can hit the ground running when they get here. So that was really helpful, I think, is competing in these competitions and putting yourself out there in the extracurricular activities. Um, and then finally, I'll say that I think just having like a hobby. I mean, having something that you're interested in outside of just policy. For me at the time, I got really interested in that past year in consultation. So I was doing a public consultation for Toronto Police on their race-based data collection strategy, and that was instrumental in my applications. Just I was going from community to community and looking at how we can combat racial biases in policing, and I was also documenting the experiences of diverse communities across Toronto. Going through the consultation process, it made me a skilled candidate or a skilled applicant because it was a different skill set than you would generally have in policy. So having those things, and I think I said hobby, that's kind of a job. A hobby, I play basketball in my free time and hang out with friends.
Okay, thank you. So what has been your favorite project to work on so far?
Favorite project to work on. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so my favorite project to work on so far would be the employment project for youth with disabilities. It's also called the Youth Project Short Term. And it pretty much just employs specially trained youth project caseworkers to use a flexible, personalized approach to working closely with youth who experience disabilities and their support systems to set goals, identify barriers, and develop like concrete solutions, and a plan to either have them gain employment or enhance their participation within their communities, as well as things like get the well-needed access to supports, life stabilization services, things like housing, mental health supports, and employment services. So I think that project has been probably the most interesting one for me to work for so far, mainly from the ministry standpoint. We develop business processes. We work with caseworkers and local offices to administer the program, and also we support them in any way we can, as well as developing directives that will allow the caseworkers to work flexibly, reduce red tape and barriers to sometimes the relationship that the caseworkers have with clients. And also doing a lot of the data and the thinking and evaluation and monitoring the project to ensure that they have the support that they need, training caseworkers through ministry partners, and conducting kind of like a corporate working group to support the projects that you guys see on the ground every day. That has been the most rewarding to me. We've heard from clients themselves how amazing the project has been, and the life-changing experiences it's had. And for me, coming into the Ontario Public Service at 22 years old, and being on my first project, being assigned this, I was like, this is what I came here for. This is the change that I was looking to make. So that's my best experience so far, and I'm actually glad you asked me that question because I get to shout out one of the projects I've been working on.
That's amazing. So I think this is the last question coming from me. So we've definitely touched on some particular skills that are instrumental for this job, but I wanted to question you on two other ones that we haven't touched really. So first, do you think is French really necessary? And should students start to develop economic skills prior to master's or even application directly to the job following their undergraduate?
Interesting question. So I'll answer up front. I'll say French isn't necessary. And I'll say that economics per se isn't like a large aspect of the job, but there are many ministries that actually look for these skills. For example, for in terms of economics, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and
Yeah.
Trade, and the Treasury Board. Why not, right? In terms of French, the Ministry of Francophone Affairs or Education. Both of these make you greater assets to various policy positions that you really should leverage in your interviews and applications. So I think that we're not looking for cookie cutter policy analysts. We're looking for people that have diverse experiences, people that are able to resonate with the people that we serve across Ontario. And I think that we do have a French population in Ontario. I do think that we do have a population in Ontario that is looking to grow in economically. And having those two skills would make you definitely an attractive candidate. If there are skills that are most important to the job or things that you might want up front, like definitely excellent, written communication and oral presentation skills will help you. Having extensive or at least a successful background in qualitative and quantitative research as well, and analytics. A lot of those are available in programs and courses that we take at Guelph as well. I know that you've probably
Yeah.
been through a couple of stats courses. We won't talk
Yeah.
about those. They weren't fun.
Not
But
quite.
you learn a lot from them, and those experiences I ended up pulling on them a lot in my first year, in my applications this past year. And then things like basic technical skills, having proficiency in software like Microsoft Excel, SPSS that came up again, and Microsoft PowerPoint. So those things will help you be a good candidate up front, and I think those things are necessary. The others not so necessary, but definitely an asset.
Okay, so keep your stats notes, eh?
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And get ready to write about them a fair bit in your applications.
Oh, great. I'm excited.
All right, and I'm going to wrap up with a non-career related question, even though I am the career advisor.
Sure.
What would you say was your favorite memory of your time at U of G?
Oh, wow. Taking me down memory lane. My favorite experience at the University of Guelph has to be Taylor Boers. He was a basketball player on the Griffin basketball team. We were playing Windsor at home, and with around zero point 0.6 seconds left on the clock, he hit a buzzer beater that night, and that sent us out to have a great time, a great evening. But also, it was probably just one of the most just exhilarating moments of my career at Guelph. I can probably speak to so many different experiences, but when I think back to something that I just on campus, having fun, participating in Griffin athletics, that would be one of my favorite experiences for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that memory. So on behalf of myself and Lucas and Ebi, we are all so appreciative of the time that you took today. I know that you gave us a lot of wisdom in your answers that all the students that are having the ability to watch this are going to be able to use and start to be a little bit strategic in some of the things that they get involved with potentially on campus and starting to see how you connected the dots to making that into a really meaningful career for you. What was it? 22. That's so awesome.
Definitely a learning curve though coming into the OPS at 22, but amazing. I'm glad I was able to accomplish it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
All right, no
Thank
problem,
you
guys.
again.
Cheers.
Thank you.